sun drops low behind the hay bales. In a farm town, you can hear the sound of the country boys revving up to raise some hell. We're coming from the east, we're coming from the west, rolling across the fields like a thunderstorm. Just an old dirt road where the good times roll. Yeah, that's where we can be found, in a farm town. All those city folks don't know. That's how we roll.
Yeah. And there you have it. That's Farmtown, Mr. Matt Westin. And surprise, surprise, guess who's here to talk with us? Matt, hello, how are you?
Hey, guys, I'm doing great. How you doing? Thanks for having me, first of all.
Doing just fine. You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us. We've already shared the one song that you did there, Farmtown, and we're going to be sharing your newer one in just a few minutes after we sit and chat with you for a while. For our listeners who are not familiar with Matt Westin, now, one underscore on that, I know from things that are coming up, not just your music, but from some other stuff we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. They're going to be knowing you a lot better than they do right now in the very near future. But first, tell us a little bit about Matt Westin, where he came from and how he got to where he is today.
Well, it's kind of interesting how I got here. I used to be an engineer, actually. I pursued engineering for a while, and I was miserable, living in a cubicle. It just really wasn't for me. And, I ended up losing my job and decided I'm not going back to it. I started pursuing acting after engineering, and I actually moved to Los Angeles for about a year. And it was about the same time I moved out there. My father ended up getting sick, and he passed away, unfortunately, in 2016. So I moved back home to Pittsburgh, where I'm from. And I was just, I was lost. I was in a dark place and self-destructing, everything that goes along with losing, a father. It was brutal. And I didn't know what I was going to do. But I kind of describe it as like a spiritual experience almost. I just knew one day that I had to pursue music. I'd been singing for quite a while, and my father had always encouraged it. He loved when I would sing. So I decided that I was going to create an album and dedicate it to my father. And that's really where it came from, just out of a place of desperation and darkness. And the music, between music and and God and my family, music was a huge part of my healing process. And I feel like the project and everything I've been doing since has been really blessed. And so I went from being an engineer to an actor to a recording artist, and now I'm actually getting back into some acting too, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But I've always been involved with music. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. I'm really excited about it. But I've always been involved with music one way or another, whether it's playing instruments in band and orchestra as a kid, or singing karaoke, or singing with my friend's band or my cousin's band. Music's always just been a part of my life, and now it's one of the biggest parts of my life. And it's a little bit of a bittersweet story, but here I am, and I'm really proud to be here. I know my dad would be proud too.
I'm sure he would. And it is really strange how often some of our greatest advancements and accomplishments come directly out of some of the darkest moments in our lives. It's really, really strange in that respect. And your story just illustrates that. John Bon Jovi, you'll jump in here. I know you've got something you want to toss in.
Well, first of all, I want to tell you, Matt, I love Farmtown. That's a rockin' little number that, my disc jockey will play, so to speak. But no, man, that's a great song. And I want to commend you for doing it. It's got some originality to it. I can't really think off the top of my head who it reminds me of, and that's actually a good thing. Because so many people will say, "Oh yeah, I can hear John Mellencamp in there, and I can hear Eric Clapton in there, and this and that." But I can't think of anybody.
And we've been guilty of that.
Oh yeah, and I can't think of anybody that it reminds me of, and I think that is really speaks well in your favor. And you don't use auto-tune, which is a beautiful thing. I'm glad you don't.
Right.
David will tell you, I got a real hair up my butt towards auto-tune. It's something that is, it makes untalented people sound good.
Right. Well, it's pretty easy to spot nowadays.
Yeah, it makes me
it is.
I don't sound good.
Now let's talk about this acting bug you had. You were saying how you went first to acting before you got into music, and I heard a rumor somewhere that there is you're still pursuing a little bit of acting, and somehow it involves a man named Johnny Cash.
Absolutely, brother. Tell us about it. It's really interesting. I'd been pursuing acting for a little bit before I lost my engineering job, so it was a passion of mine going way back. And, when I moved back to Pittsburgh after my father had passed away, acting was pretty much on the back burner. I left it in California, and I switched gears to music. And it just so happened that a friend of mine is involved in a film called 116 McDougal. And she does hair and makeup, and she has a small role in it as well. The film's about the Gaslight Cafe in Greenwich Village, late 50s, early 60s. Okay. And the owner of the place, and a lot of the folk musicians and beat writers that started there, such as like Bob Dylan was a big one that started there, and Peter from Peter, Paul, and Mary, and a bunch of writers, Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, a lot of people come through there. A lot of really cool, interesting characters in the film. But basically, it's about how the owner would protect the artists from the FBI, from the mafia, from the police, and the local government, because they were considered counterculture and they were considered a threat. It was the beginning of the counterculture movement. Well, Johnny Cash used to pop in from time to time when he was in town, and he would play a set for them. And I'm pretty sure that's where he got to know Bob Dylan.
Very possible.
But because Bob Dylan was only about 19 years old, he was a writer there. So when they found out that Johnny Cash had played there, they had to include that role in the film. It's too iconic to pass up. So a friend of mine that's working in the film suggested me, and the producers called me immediately, and I just so happened to have a recording of me singing Folsom Prison Blues. So I sent them the file, and it was unanimous. They chose me. I was the only one they auditioned for the role, and I was picked to portray a young Johnny Cash.
That's phenomenal.
And and what an iconic role. I mean, it's a small role in the film, but it's such a huge honor. And I actually have 2 songs on the soundtrack. And the film, we haven't shot the film yet. That's happening this summer, but they're also developing it for Broadway. So this thing's getting a lot of attention, and rightly so, because this is all untold stories and history of music and American history, and I'm just really honored to be a part of it.
That is awesome. What's the name of the film again?
116 McDougal. That's the address of the Gaslight Cafe.
I'm writing it down here in case you can hear my pencil scratching on the paper there, but I gotta keep that handy. Now, since you haven't started filming, this is probably going to be scheduled for what, a 2020 release?
Well, let's see. It depends on when we start filming, but they plan on having it released very shortly. Post-production, everything's all planned out, and if it's not by the end of this year, it'll be early next year. So hopefully we start filming soon. I think we're going to film for 60 days and go directly into post-production. The soundtrack is already finished, and it was recorded by a guy named Jimmy Hoyson, he's won 6 Grammy Awards. So this is going to be a top-notch production, and I just really can't believe it fell into my lap. And the music and the acting, the music and the acting are are merging. They're coming together, and I just knew somehow they would someday. So
it's funny how those pieces come together. Yeah, it is.
Right.
Matt,
right.
We have a tradition here on the show where once you appear with us, you're part of our family, and by that you always have a home here. We always have a stage for you. We always have a means of transmitting your news information and new tracks, whatever you're doing. So I hope you will please keep in touch with us. Let us know what's going on, especially with the film as well as your music. And we will definitely spread the word as we can to the listeners. Now, I also have a Facebook groups page called, ironically enough, the David Bowers Awards. Imagine that. And you can find it real easy. Just search it on Facebook. And if their search engine is working, you'll get it in no time at all. But that is there strictly for the use of my listeners as well as my guests on the show. And it's there for you to post your music information, news, notes, whatever, new releases, touring, travel dates, whatever you want to put on there that you want to share with the rest of the world. That's what it's there for. Just add it to your list of press releases, and we'll make sure you get your coverage there. So keep us in mind, and please keep us in touch. We'll definitely spread the word about the movie when it comes out, too. I know I want to go see that one. And I'm not a hardcore movie buff, but that's one I definitely want to see. Now, before we get to your new track, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up in the future after the movie, of course, because I know that's going to take up, it's going to take up a couple of months of your time. What have you got planned after that? New music, touring, or what?
Well, I just released a new song about a month ago called Stomp On, and I plan on releasing 3 more this year, kind of like seasonally. We did one in the spring. I'm going to try to do one for summer, fall, and winter as well. I'll actually be in the recording studio on Thursday finishing up the 3rd one. So there's new music coming very soon, hopefully next month, I would think, maybe the end of June, another song. And and I think that the Broadway adaptation of the film is moving forward at the same time as the film itself. So I might be wrapped up in a lot of stuff this year, but it's all good, and I'm really excited to see where it takes me. And as for touring, that's not on the calendar as of right now. It's kind of hard to find a steel guitar player in Pittsburgh, to be honest with you. But I'm working on a
the Oak Ridge boys got a banjo picker out of South Philly. I'm sure you can figure something out.
Yeah, it's been a little bit difficult. So I've been focusing more on the recording and promoting my album and my new singles and interviewing with people. And I was on TV twice in the last month, once in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, for a show called Good Day PA, PA Live, and then in Harrisburg, PA, just a few days ago, in Harrisburg for a show called Good Day PA. They're like morning news shows, and I got to sing a couple songs and interview. So I think about half the state was able to tune in, and it's all over their websites and social media as well. So I'm keeping busy, and Michael Stover at MTS Records, he always keets me busy.
He's a good man.
My interviews. He's great. Great guy.
He's set up a lot of artists that we have had here over the recent years, including you, and our next guest, Kristin Karma, will be coming along in a couple of minutes as well. I want to thank you for coming by, sharing your story with us, also your interesting little tidbits of future things, and especially the film, and most assuredly, your music. In the 30 seconds or so we've got left, tell us about this new track that we're going to be playing here, Stomp On.
Stomp On is it's an in-your-face rock and country song that I think raised the bar again after my debut album, and I'm really proud of it, and I think it's going to help to launch my career to the next level. I think that they're actually talking about promoting it and pitching it to some Major League Sporting leagues, and hopefully if that happens, there goes my career into the stratosphere. So really proud of this song, and I think you guys will like it.
Well, I know I do. John Bon Jovi is going to hear it for the first time right now, along with the rest of our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Matt Westin. Watch for the name. Remember it. You're going to be hearing more from him